This is Proclaim, 30 minutes of news and information from around the Diocese of Altoona-Johnstown, and the Proclaim TV Mass live from St. John Galbert Cathedral in Johnstown at 11 a.m. Proclaim is brought to you by the Independent Catholic Foundation, UPMC Altoona, and the generous support of the Catholic Ministries Drive.
We started making these pilgrimages. Eventually, they started to go from sort of the cities within a drivable distance of western Pennsylvania to being a little bit further. And eventually, they went international.
A local pastor offers young people an opportunity to explore their faith beyond their parish churches. Good morning and welcome to Proclaim for Sunday, February 8th, 2026. I'm Tony DeGaulle. Great to have you with us. That story in a moment, but first, a milestone for one of our Catholic high schools. Bishop Carroll Catholic High School in Ebensburg is home now to a newly rededicated chapel in honor of St. Carlo Acutis, who was just canonized months ago. It makes BC one of the first schools or Catholic churches in the United States to officially have a worship space named after one of the newest saints in the world. Bishop Mark led the rededication ceremony following a mass at the school the other day.
I encourage all of you to speak to saints like Blaise from Armenia and Carlo from Italy, and ask them to help you to put to good use everything that you learn, especially here at Bishop Carroll. You already know in a general way that there is a lot of stuff out there that intentionally remains on that dark side. But we need to stand in the light. And there's only one light that directs our lives. It's the light of Jesus Christ, our Savior. At the end of Mass today, we're going to bring the image of St. Carlo to the school chapel. And with the help of prayers of everyone here, the chapel in Bishop Carroll Catholic High School will be officially and formally dedicated under the name of St. Carlo Acutis. So whenever you go into the chapel, even for a couple of minutes between class, or whenever you have a chance to take a break, ask Carlo to guide you. Take this, all of you, and eat of it, for this is my body, which will be given up for you. Therefore, O Lord, we beseech you, graciously pour forth from heaven your sanctifying power upon this chapel, to make this forever a holy place with a table always prepared for the sacrifice of Christ. Here may the flood of divine grace overwhelm human offenses, so that your children, Father, being dead to sin, may be reborn to heavenly life.
And our students embody the spirit of St. Carlo Acutis. And it's wonderful that we have finally reached this point, that this wonderful worship space, which has stood for 65 years in this school, now has an official name of a saint for teenagers and will stand for many, many years to come.
Congratulations to the Bishop Carroll community on its chapel rededication. Meanwhile, students at St. Michael's School in Loretto enjoyed a special opportunity the other day during Catholic Schools Week, a special vocations mass and celebration with various priests and religious on hand to discuss with students the joy of their vocation and the importance of being open to the Lord's call.
Sing hallelujah. sometimes it's just kind of hearing God speak to us through our interests and through our desires. Why is it so important to listen for God's voice as He tells us what to do with our lives? Yeah, He made us. He knows what we like, right? And if He knows what we like, He's helping us to see what we should do with our lives. Do you think we'll find joy if we follow the path that He wants us to follow? Yeah, right. He wants to give us joy. And as important it is to find a job, the vocational path in life is so much more important. If you go home today and ask our parents what the best day of their life was, I doubt what they're going to say. Something about it. They'll probably say something about watching you be born.
Take this, all of you, and eat of it, for this is my body, which will be given up for you.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven.
Behold the Lamb of God. Behold him who takes away the sins of the world. Blessed are those who are called to the supper of the Lamb. Lord, I am not worthy that you should enter under my roof, but only say the word, and my soul shall be healed.
I always said, God, if it isn't right, you're going to let me know. You put the idea here somehow in my heart and mind. If you take it away, I'll do something else. If you keep it, I'll try my best to be faithful. And that's what I've done. That's what I tried to do. But every guy's story will be really different. Some really wrestle with the decision. It's very hard. For some, it's a little more gentle. It's very similar as you guys start to meet girls and say, I like this girl, I don't like that girl, and maybe date in a couple years. You know, you're going to see relationships are different. This might seem easy. This is like, boy, she's crazy. I want to get rid of her real fast, you know, one way or another. So it's sort of like that, only it's not with just another person. It's in your relationship with God. You're trying to see, is this right?
I had this idea that I had to already be a saint and perfect before I could become a sister. And then I realized, I read a couple different books about different saints, sister saints, and I was like, oh, no, they weren't perfect already. They just, when they went to the convent, that would help make them better, and it would help perfect them in God's eyes. Not perfect in the mind, like the same way that the world says is perfect is not the same way that God says is perfect.
The nice thing is you don't do it alone. You're never alone. Father and I can both tell you, life in the seminary is a lot like religious life. We're in a group. We're praying together. And the difference with diocesan priesthood is, because there are fewer of us, we do tend to live alone right now. That isn't the way it has to be or always was. When I was ordained, I moved into a house with 4 other priests, okay? So I was never on my own.
If any of you feel like you have an inkling that God might be telling you about it, or even just a small part of you that's interested in it, it's always good to just find someone and ask them a question. What's your life like? What do you do? What do you like about it? What's hard about it? Get the details. That way you know more about it, because you can't make a decision about anything until you start to learn more about it. What's the life going to look like? And I would also recommend, when you guys get older, probably high school years, to go and visit places. So if you think, wow, religious life looks a little bit interesting, maybe visit St. Vincent's, where you went to school, right? You went to St. Vincent's? Where the Benedictine monks are. Go visit them. See what their life is like. Come visit us just up the hill. come see what our life is like.
I think it was just, like I said at Mass, serving at Mass always felt really peaceful, and I felt like this was something I wanted to do. I like talking about Jesus in religion class, so it just kind of fit, right? That interest was always there. I think part of the thing that helped me was, like I talked about joy in the priesthood. My pastor growing up was a very joyful priest. He was always smiling and happy, cracking jokes, and he just loved life as a priest. And that showed me that I could love life as a priest too. I think that's really important for all of us to put on a happy face and show you that this is a joyful life.
So maybe you can tell about first vows.
First vows, so it's a vow that's made for a year, and then you're able to take this vow and do it for like 7 years before the last year.
Yeah,
and
just 1 year at a time.
1 year at a time. And it goes from the date you made it. So I was John the Baptist. So John the Baptist, again, I would renew. So it's a time where you step in and you now, like the first year, usually you're closer to home and you are doing a little bit of a job. And then you can be transferred to, after this, any location of our province. So we have in New York, Michigan, Ohio, and more local here. So it's to be able to test out different, to find your niche, to see what you would do, and to be able to help within the order.
Yeah, it also preps you for like making the like, I vow. So in the vow words, we say, I vow for 1 year of my life, poverty, chastity, and obedience. So almost all religious, consecrated men and women take these 3 vows.
Yeah, they told us about how they became like sisters and their signs of Christ. I thought that was pretty neat. If Christ wants you to do something, there's normally a sign. Just look for it.
It's extra special. I mean, we are blessed with Brother Colby, who is in our faculty every single day. But to have the extra priests and the sisters and have them be able to talk to our students and our students actually be able to relate to them is huge. It's somewhere that they don't get in any other Catholic school, let alone public school, where they get to come immerse with them. And now with our sisters leading our church over in the rectory, the kids see them as well. I mean, if not daily, at least a couple of times a week around, and they get to talk to them. So they feel comfortable, and it's really nice that they get to ask them questions that maybe led them in their vocation. So it gets our girls and boys even younger in age thinking about what they want to be and what they're called to do in life.
They crack me up because a lot of the times they're interested in a lot of the practicalities of a vocation. So not so much why did you want to do it, but more when do you get up in the morning? What does your day look like? What do you do when you go home? Because I think a lot of times they think of priests, brothers, sisters as so set apart that they're no longer like normal people. So that's what they're interested in. Like, what do you do for fun? Do you watch movies? That sort of thing. So having a day for vocations where we actually specifically look at God's call, God's will in your life, I think is a good to set aside a day where we actually tackle that part of vocation, because they don't as quickly ask questions about that.
The vocational call is probably at its embryonic stage right now, where they don't necessarily have a sense of it, but there is always a sense of like, God made me who I am, and that always can be built upon, and to like affirm them in that identity of children of God, even now in those simple ways of uplifting their prayer life and encouraging them in that, and to look and think more deeply about those times when those deep moments that have impact on them personally, and to not discount that.
There's lots of resources out there. Vianney Vocations has resources for parents for helping your kids through the questions of what a vocation is. Part of it too is even just asking your pastor over for dinner once in a while, or just so that your kids can experience what it's like to be in a vocation other than marriage, right? Either a priesthood, or if you have religious sisters around, inviting them too, if you're comfortable doing that. So that your kids can be exposed to different paths that God might be calling them to.
And that vocations event at St. Michael's School in Loretto comes as the Diocese of Altoona-Johnstown is seeing success with its Called by Name initiative, which invited parishioners over the past few months to submit the names of young men who exhibit the qualities of a future priest. Thanks to that initiative, our Diocesan Office of Vocations is now in contact with more than 440 guys who may be open to discerning God's call to the priesthood. The young men are being invited to a series of special masses and social events with the bishop in the coming weeks. Please keep those guys in your prayers, and as always, continue to pray for an increase in vocations throughout our diocese. A bishop's appointment to share with you this morning. Reverend Donald Duza, appointed parochial vicar at Immaculate Conception Parish in New Germany, Most Holy Trinity Parish in South Fork, St. Bartholomew Parish in Wilmore, and St. John the Baptist Parish in Summer Hill. That appointment was effective on January 27th. Stay tuned for the Proclaim TV Mass from St. John Galbert Cathedral in Johnstown, live at 11 here on WATM ABC 23.
Proclaim is brought to you by the Independent Catholic Foundation, UPMC Altoona, and the generous support of the Catholic Ministries Drive.
The Independent Catholic Foundation has become the largest charitable foundation in Central PA, with investments aligned according to the ethical, moral, and social teachings of the Catholic Church. Our endowments produce nearly $2 million in financial aid for local parishes, schools, ministries, and cemeteries. To learn more about the Independent Catholic Foundation, call or visit us online. Entrust your legacy with the Independent Catholic Foundation.
A musical treat is happening later this week in our diocese. The Raystown Wind Orchestra, conducted by Dr. James Lattin, will present a concert this Friday, February 13th at 7 at the Cathedral of the Blessed Sacrament in Altoona. The instrumental program will include concerto for marimba, serenade for 10 wind instruments, and a world premiere entitled Gaudí, named for the Spanish architect Antoni Gaudí. Again, this Friday at 7 at the Altoona Cathedral. Admission is free. All Saints Parish in Boswell will host a talk about old-time gardens and their relevance for reconnecting to our food, our families, and God's creation. Mary Minetti, pictured here, is the founder of the Italian Garden Project. At the talk, she'll share how these gardens serve as glimpses into the past that can lead to a brighter future. Growing up with an Italian immigrant grandfather, Minetti came to know and value his self-reliant lifestyle, his careful use of resources, and his extensive gardening knowledge. Her work has been featured on NPR, PBS, and media outlets throughout the United States and Italy. The talk will be on February 23rd at 6:30 at the All Saints Parish Hall. It's free and open to everyone. However, those wishing to attend are asked to kindly register by calling the All Saints Parish office. Well, it was the experience of a lifetime for youth at some Somerset County parishes in recent months, including one I just mentioned in the gardening story. High school students enrolled in the religious education program at All Saints Parish in Boswell, and one parent per family traveled to Rome. Meanwhile, high school students enrolled in the religious education program at Our Lady Queen of Angels Parish in Central City, and a parent went to Eastern Europe. Students and their families from both religious ed programs traveled to Chicago, Notre Dame, and Milwaukee. The pastor, Father Aaron Magsudi, and some of the students who participated explain how these pilgrimages were great opportunities to learn and grow in the Catholic faith.
We started making these pilgrimages. Eventually, they started to go from sort of the cities within a drivable distance of western Pennsylvania to being a little bit further, and eventually they went international. So in the year 2025, our parishes went on 3 unique pilgrimages. The Boswell Parish, their high school religious education students went to Rome in February of 2025. While we were in Rome, we were able to see all of the major basilicas. We were able to visit the catacombs. We were able to go to the Sistine Chapel. We were able to spend a lot of time in prayer. We ventured outside of Rome, and we were able to go to Assisi and Orvieto. And while we were in Assisi, we not only prayed such a powerful occasion of prayer at the tomb of St. Francis, But I was really surprised at when the students prayed at the tomb of St. Carlo Acutis. I was really struck by the level of emotion and the level of seriousness with which they took that part of the pilgrimage. And the students talked about Carlo after the pilgrimage was over. It clearly had a powerful effect on them. While we were there, we also, will occasionally see some secular sites as well, because we try to integrate all of these things. So we saw the Colosseum, and of course there is a religious element that's also part of that. And we saw, some of the great art and culture of Rome.
I just think seeing how big and grand St. Peter's Basilica was something that really just opened my eyes on the faith.
Father Aaron is the best, one of the best people that I know. So getting to go on a trip with him, you got to learn almost twice as much than what you expected. Yes, the other tour guides did share information, but something about Father is that he knows those weird, back hidden details that you don't typically see. So just getting to learn those offset, nuanced things was just a whole new level of learning. And getting to wake up in the morning and have a prayer and talk and have breakfast with everybody. And then at the end of the night, just hang out with everybody, talk about our day and unload and give Father feedback and him give feedback to us about what's going on it was incredible.
Core memory for me would be celebrating Mass, and they have these underground chapels in St. Peter's, and we celebrate Mass in those one day. So every day we'd say prayers. Obviously, if we're going somewhere before we eat, we'd have Mass every day as well.
It just kind of made me see my faith in a different perspective than what we typically see. The way it's celebrated is very different than here in America. So seeing it celebrated from its true root was just incredible. The big churches, the cathedrals, the music, it just completely enveloped you. It was an entire experience, something completely different that I have never experienced before. So getting to be able to sit there and just be completely surrounded by it just kind of made me feel so deep and rooted. It felt almost perfect and right,
In the summer, the parish from Central City traveled to Eastern Europe over 12 days, and they visited Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, Austria, Slovenia, and Croatia. While we were in Poland, we stayed with the Sacred Heart Sisters at their mother house, which was a great experience. We were able to understand the Polish expression of faith in deep ways by visiting their churches, learning about the history of the church under communism. For instance, we went to the church in Nowa Huta, which is a suburb of Krakow, where the communists intended to build a godless, ideal communist city, where there was such pushback from the people that they eventually built a church under much, much duress. We were able to go to Auschwitz, and on that same day go to Częstochowa, where we saw the depravity of what human beings are capable of, and we saw redemption and deep faith at Częstochowa. When we went into Slovakia, we spent time in some villages where a lot of the students' families came from. In fact, we visited one of their home villages while we were there, and we got to see sort of the vibrant pattern of rural Slovakia. In Hungary, we not only visited some beautiful churches in Budapest, but were able to study sort of the trends that happened during Nazism and communism and how the Hungarian people responded to that. In Austria, we went to the Abbey of Heiligenkreuz, nearly 1,000 years old in continuous existence. There's over 100 monks there. It's a growing monastery in Austria near Vienna. We were able to go there for Corpus Christi, and it was magnificent. We were there for the very Austrian Corpus Christi procession with real deep faith in the Eucharist. Eventually, we made our way into Slovenia and Croatia, where we saw not only beautiful churches and stories of faith, but were able to also see the beautiful coastline and the magnificent nature that is there. In the fall, because now we're on to our pilgrimage for the next academic year, both parishes came together and we made a trip to Chicago and Notre Dame and Milwaukee for 4 days. While we were there, we decided to explore the American Catholic experience because our new Holy Father is an American from Chicago. So we got to visit various ethnic parishes. We got to visit the University of Notre Dame. We got to sort of explore sort of our identity as American Catholics. What does it mean to be a faithful Catholic within the context of the United States?
We started off by flying out to Krakow, and we got to see like the main city of Krakow, and it's a pretty beautiful city. Like there's a lot of authentic buildings there that are still standing, like they're like the real thing, and they're pretty cool. And we toured around the city there. We visited a couple castles in Krakow, and we went to Slovakia, and we went on like boat rides, and we got to saw like the landscapes around Slovakia. Then we went to Slovenia, and we saw even more authentic buildings there too, and we stayed at a hotel.
It was during the Jubilee year, so that was fun. So the holy doors were open, so we got to go see those. So St. Paul outside the walls was our first one. Then next day we went and saw the Vatican, and then we toured Italy and all the very important historic churches, the French church, the Baroque churches, and really went through history and saw the evolution of our faith.
So every morning we did a morning prayer in one of the chapels we were at, and then we went to Mass every day, as well as an evening prayer, which is kind of the same as the morning prayer. And we also did Masses in different languages from the different places.
We went to Budapest, and we got to see the main city of Budapest. It was pretty cool. And actually, there's two separate parts of Budapest. The part that's on the hill is actually Buda, then the main part that's on level ground is Pest. So it's pretty cool. We got to see a bunch of different churches there. Then we went to Croatia, which is a separate island. Not a separate island, but we visited one of the islands on Croatia, and we stayed there for a couple days, and it was really beautiful to see because I'd never been to Europe before. It was cool to see how the landscape is and how beautiful it is in Europe.
I learned that it's not just something you do on Sundays. It's really a way of life and how important it is to everything.
One thing I learned was how the people live out there, which is a lot different from how we live in America. Just the things they do every day and what they do for fun.
Again, I mean, especially Krakow for me, just seeing those beautiful buildings and how connected everyone is there, especially in Poland. It was just beautiful to see that, and it made me feel like I need to have better relationships with everybody.
It just really made me think how strong that our faith is and how many people really celebrate this faith in all these different places. That it's just so beautiful.
For me, just seeing it, how God created the universe and how beautiful everything else is, but we're still his greatest creation. We are.
It gives you this whole new level of understanding, even if it's just maybe a different church in the area, because everybody does something different and you will always learn something new wherever you go. So getting that opportunity, just take it. And even if you don't think you're going to like it, you will find something to like in it and you will learn something in it.
Those trips provided the students with not only perspectives on faith and beauty and history and culture, and saw how all of those things are integrated. But there were many occasions where you saw it have a real powerful effect. But a lot of these students, or most of them, are still at Mass every week, seem to be more engaged.
What a great opportunity for those young people. Well, that does it for this edition of Proclaim for Sunday, February 8th, 2026. I'm Tony DeGaulle. Have a great week and stay tuned for the Proclaim TV Mass from St. John Gulbert Cathedral in Johnstown, coming up next.
Thank you for watching Proclaim. Stay up to date with the latest diocesan news and information anytime by visiting the Proclaim e-news site at proclaim.dioceseaj.org. While you're there, sign up for email updates by clicking on the e-news tab in the upper right. You can also visit the Diocese of Altoona-Johnstown website at dioceseaj.org. Don't forget to like the Diocese of Altoona-Johnstown on Facebook. Stay tuned for the Proclaim TV Mass live from St. John Gulbert Cathedral in Johnstown, brought to you by the Independent Catholic Foundation and the generous support of the Catholic Ministries Drive.